What would you do if your sister asked you to pay $10,000 to watch her wedding on a live stream? A wedding you'd already spent your entire life savings funding. Well, I did something that shocked everyone, including myself. And it changed both our lives forever. Some bonds feel unbreakable, or at least that's what I thought about me and my little sister Emily. Picture this: two girls, maybe 7 and 5 years old, squeezed into a makeshift treehouse that was really just plywood balanced between two oak trees. Emily would always make me promise to keep her secrets. Back then, her biggest secret was that she'd stolen an extra cookie from Mom's jar. I'd cross my heart and hope to die, and she'd giggle like we were planning the heist of the century. We painted everything together: our bedroom walls, our faces sometimes, the neighbor's fence when Mom wasn't looking. Emily had this way of getting paint everywhere, except where it was supposed to go. But somehow, her finger-painted flowers always looked more beautiful than mine. Maybe because she painted them with her whole heart. The memory that really sticks with me happened when I was 12. I came down with pneumonia and spent 2 weeks in the hospital. Emily was only 10, but she convinced our parents to sneak her in past visiting hours. She'd crawl into my hospital bed, careful not to tangle my IV lines, and whisper stories about everything happening at home. How our cat, Mr. Whiskers, missed me. How she was failing math without my help. How she'd saved half her Halloween candy just for me. Those 2 weeks she never missed a single day. College pulled us in different directions. I went to the state school 20 minutes from home to study elementary education. Emily got a partial scholarship to a private university 3 hours away for business and marketing. Different worlds, different friends, different everything. But we had our thing, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. no matter what. We called them our memory chats. Sometimes it was just a quick text with our code word treehouse. That meant, I'm thinking of you, I miss you, I love you. Other times we'd send voice notes that lasted 20 minutes, sharing everything from failed tests to first kisses to our biggest dreams and deepest fears. It was during one of these memory chats that Emily first mentioned Lily. Sophie, I met this amazing girl in my event planning class. She's like us, she gets it. She actually listens when I talk about wanting to make something beautiful in the world. Lily Thompson. That name would become so important to our story. Emily described her as this artistic soul with an eye for detail that matched Emily's big picture thinking. They became the power duo of their college's social committee, planning everything from freshman orientation to senior galas. When I finally met Lily during Emily's sophomore year, I understood the connection immediately. She had this warm laugh that filled up entire rooms and a way of remembering tiny details about people that made them feel seen. When Emily introduced us at a family barbecue, Lily already knew that I taught third grade, that I collected vintage teacups, and that I made the world's worst brownies but somehow perfect chocolate chip cookies. Emily talks about you constantly, Lily said, hugging me like we'd known each other for years. She says you're the one who taught her that being kind is more important than being right. The three of us just clicked. It was like our childhood treehouse had suddenly gotten bigger with room for one more dreamer. We started group chats, planned visits, shared inside jokes. Lily would drive down with Emily for holidays, and I'd make an extra bed in my tiny apartment. Those were golden days. Emily was thriving at school. I was loving my teaching job, and Lily felt like the sister I'd never had but always wanted. We talked about how we'd all be in each other's wedding someday, how our kids would grow up together, how we'd be those embarrassing older ladies who still had sleepovers and painted our nails ridiculous colors. But here's what I didn't know then, what none of us knew: some bonds can feel unbreakable, right up until the moment they shatter. And sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones holding the hammer. Emily called me at 11:30 on a Tuesday night sobbing. But these weren't sad tears. Sophie, oh my God, you have to sit down. I was already in bed, but I sat up anyway, my heart racing. What's wrong? Are you okay? Nathan proposed, I screamed. Actually screamed so loud that my upstairs neighbor banged on the ceiling. Emily was engaged. My little sister, who used to practice walking in my high heels, was getting married. Tell me everything, every single detail. What did he say? How did he do it? Did you cry? Of course you cried. I'm crying right now. For the next hour, Emily painted me a picture. Nathan had taken her to the botanical gardens where they'd had their first date 2 years ago. He'd hidden the ring inside a hollowed-out book about event planning because that's how they'd met in Professor Martinez's event management class. When Emily opened it, he dropped to one knee right there between the rose bushes. And Sophie, the ring is perfect. It's not huge or flashy, but it's exactly what I would have picked. He knows me so well. Nathan Chen. I'd met him a handful of times over the past 2 years. Smart-driven, working toward his MBA while managing his family's import business. He treated Emily like she hung the moon, which was exactly what she deserved. But more than that, he made her laugh. Real belly-deep laughter that reminded me of our treehouse days. So, when's the wedding? I asked. We're thinking next fall, October. Maybe I want the leaves to be changing. You know, all those golds and reds. That's when I knew what I had to do. Emily, I want to pay for your wedding. Silence. Complete silence for almost 30 seconds. Sophie, what are you talking about? I'd been saving money since I started teaching. Living in my tiny one-bedroom apartment, driving my beat-up Honda Civic, bringing lunch to work every day, while other people of my age were going on fancy vacations or buying new furniture. I'd been putting away every extra dollar. Not for anything specific, just because that's what our parents taught us to do. But suddenly, I knew exactly what that money was for. I have $40,000 saved up, Em. I want you to have your dream wedding. She started crying again. Sophie, I can't take your money. That's your future, your security. No, Emily, you're my future, you're my family. This is what I want to do with it. The truth was, I could think of nothing that would make me happier than giving Emily the wedding she'd been dreaming about since we were kids, playing dress-up in Mom's old prom dresses. By the weekend, our three-way group chat with Lily had exploded with wedding planning. Lily, with her artistic eye and event planning experience, became our unofficial coordinator. We created Pinterest boards with names like Emily's Autumn Dreams and Sophisticated Rustic Vibes. I threw myself into research like I was planning my own wedding. Venues, photographers, florists, caterers. I made spreadsheets comparing prices, drove to 3 different counties looking at possible locations, and spent my evenings scrolling through vendor websites. Emily wanted something intimate but elegant. Around 100 guests somewhere with natural beauty that wouldn't need much decoration. We found the perfect place, Willowbrook Lodge, a historic inn, on the edge of a lake about an hour outside the city. The ceremony would be on their back lawn overlooking the water with reception in their glass conservatory. It was everything Emily had described and more. It's perfect, she whispered when we toured it together. But Sophie, it's so expensive. That's what the money is for, Em. This is your one wedding. It should be perfect. Lily and I spent hours that summer planning every detail. She had connections from her event planning classes, and I had the budget to make Emily's visions come reality. We tasted cakes, sampled flowers, compared photographers' portfolios. It felt like the most important project of my life. But then Nathan's parents wanted to meet the family. Margaret and Richard Chen lived in Westfield, one of those suburbs where every house looks like it belongs in a magazine, and the grocery stores sell $20 olive oil. Their home was all clean lines and neutral colors, the kind of place where you're afraid to put your feet up. Emily was nervous. They're really formal, Sophie. Just be yourself, but maybe you know the polished version of yourself. I wore my best dress, the navy blue one I saved for parent-teacher conferences and church. Emily looked stunning in a cream-colored sweater that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Nathan held her hand the entire drive over. Margaret Chen was beautiful in that untouchable way some women achieve after a certain age. Perfect silver hair, perfect posture, perfect smile that never quite reached her eyes. Richard was quieter, but when he spoke, everyone listened. Dinner was served in their formal dining room, complete with china that looked like it belonged in a museum. Margaret asked all the right questions about my job, my education, my family. She smiled at all the right moments. But something felt off. It was in the pauses between her questions, the way she said, "How interesting," when I mentioned teaching third grade, the slight tilt of her head when I talked about growing up in our working class neighborhood. "And you're paying for the wedding yourself, Sophie?" Margaret asked over dessert. "How generous of you." The way she said generous made it sound like something else entirely. "Sophie's been saving for years," Emily said proudly. "She's incredibly responsible with money." "I'm sure she is," Margaret replied. "Teaching is such a stable profession, isn't it? Very predictable income." Richard cleared his throat. "Margaret, perhaps we should discuss the guest list. Our side of the family is quite large." I told myself Margaret was just nervous about her son getting married. That's what people do when they're worried about change, right? They say things that come out wrong, ask questions that sound like judgment. But as we drove home that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just failed some test I didn't even know I was taking. "They seem nice," I lied to Emily. "They'll warm up to you," she said. "They're just protective of Nathan. Once they see how amazing you are, they'll love you as much as I do." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But Margaret Chen's smile kept playing in my mind, and I wondered if $40,000 would be enough to buy my sister the acceptance she deserved. The first sign something was wrong came through a screenshot. I was grading papers on a Sunday afternoon when my phone buzzed. A message from my friend Jessica, who was also friends with Lily on Instagram. "Hey, isn't this Emily's wedding stuff? Why aren't you in this group?" The screenshot showed an Instagram story from Lily, a photo of her phone screen displaying a group chat called Emily's Dream Team. 4 participants, Emily, Nathan, Lily, and someone named Vivian Caldwell. I stared at that screenshot for 10 minutes. Our original group chat, the one where we'd planned everything for months, had gone quiet over the past 2 weeks. I'd assumed everyone was busy with school and work. But apparently they'd just moved the conversation somewhere I wasn't invited. I texted Emily directly. "Hey, saw Lily's story. Is there a new planning group I should be in?" Her response came 3 hours later. "Oh, that's just a small logistics chat with Nathan's family planner. Nothing important. We're keeping the main planning in our original group." But our original group chat stayed silent. Then came the phone call that changed everything. "Sophie, we need to talk about the venue." Emily's voice sounded different. Tighter, more formal. "What about Willowbrook? Did something happen? Did they double book us?" "No, nothing like that. It's just Nathan's parents have some concerns. They think maybe we should look at something more appropriate for their family's expectations." My stomach dropped. "Emily, you loved Willowbrook. You said it was perfect." I know, and it is beautiful. But Margaret showed me Eastwood Country Club in Sophie. It's incredible. It's where Nathan's cousin got married last year. The photos were in Town and Country magazine. Eastwood Country Club. I looked it up after hearing Nathan mention it once. It was the kind of place where memberships cost more than I made in a year, and valet parking was standard. But, that's going to cost at least double what we budgeted. Maybe triple. Actually, that's the amazing part. Nathan's parents want to contribute to make up the difference. They're being so generous. Generous. That word again, but this time from Emily's mouth, and somehow it stung worse than when Margaret had said it. What about everything we already planned? The photographer who specializes in outdoor ceremonies. The florist who designed those arrangements specifically for the lakeside setting. "We'll figure it out, Sophie. Vivian, that's Nathan's family planner. She's amazing at this stuff. She's already reaching out to new vendors." Vivian, the 4th person in the group chat I wasn't part of. "When do you want to tour Eastwood? I can take a day off this week." Silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. "Actually, Sophie, I think Nathan and I should see it first. Just to get a feel for it, you know? If we like it, then we'll all go together." But we never all went together because by the time Emily called to tell me they'd booked Eastwood Country Club, the contracts were already signed and the deposits were already paid. The changes kept coming small at first, then bigger. Sophie, I know you're excited about your dress for the wedding, but could you maybe go with something a little more neutral? Margaret thinks your style might distract from the overall aesthetic. My style. I'd planned to wear an emerald green dress that brought out my eyes, something that made me feel confident and beautiful. Something that felt like me. What kind of aesthetic are we going for exactly? You know, elegant, sophisticated, classic. Classic. I was learning that classic was code for not like Sophie. Then came the hair comment. Would you consider toning down your hair color? Maybe go back to your natural brown. It's just that the photographer wants a cohesive look in the family photos. So, I'd been dyeing my hair various shades of red since college. It was part of who I was, like my collection of vintage jewelry, or my habit of wearing bright colors to make my third graders smile. Emily used to say my hair looked like autumn leaves, that it was beautiful and bold, just like me. Emily, it's not even that bright right now, and it's been this color for 2 years. I know, Sophie, it's a lot for the photos. Each conversation felt like I was being erased one piece at a time. My style, my hair, my venue choice, my vendor preferences. Everything that made me Sophie was apparently too much for Emily's new vision of her perfect wedding. But the worst part wasn't what Emily was saying to me. It was what Lily told me later in a conversation that almost broke my heart completely. We met for coffee at our usual spot, a little cafe downtown that served the best cinnamon rolls in the city. Lily looked uncomfortable from the moment she sat down, stirring her latte obsessively and avoiding eye contact. Sophie, I need to tell you something, and I don't know how to say it. My chest tightened. Just say it, Lily. I'm in that group chat, the one with Vivian and Nathan's family. And Sophie, some of the things they're saying. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through screenshots she'd taken. Messages from Vivian about managing expectations and elevating the event's sophistication. Messages from Margaret about guiding Emily toward better choices. And then messages from Emily herself. Maybe Sophie doesn't need to be so involved in every decision. This is my wedding after all. I love my sister, but she doesn't really understand the level we're trying to achieve here. Sophie means well, but her taste is very small town. I need this to be perfect. I stared at those words until they blurred together. Small town. My taste was small town. Lily, why are you showing me this? Because it's wrong. Because you're being hurt, and Emily doesn't even see it. Because I tried to say something in the chat and she brushed me off. What did you try to say? I asked if we should include you in more of the planning since you're paying for so much of it. And Emily said that money doesn't automatically mean someone gets to control every decision. Control. As if wanting to be included in planning the wedding I was funding made me controlling. I also asked about the venue change, whether we should honor the work you'd already put into Willowbrook. Emily said you'd understand, that you always understand that you're good at adapting. Good at adapting? Translation. Good at being pushed aside without making a fuss. Lily, I don't know what to do. She reached across the table and took my hand. Sophie, I've watched you pour your heart into this wedding for months. I've seen you research vendors until 2 a.m. and drive hours to look at venues and spend your Saturdays tasting cakes for a wedding that's starting to feel like it has no room for you in it. Her words hit something deep in my chest, a hurt I'd been trying to ignore. Emily's my little sister. This is supposed to be the happiest time of her life. And what about your happiness? What about the fact that you're being asked to fund a wedding that you're being systematically excluded from? I didn't have an answer for that. Because the truth was, I'd been telling myself that Emily's happiness was more important than my hurt feelings. That being a good big sister meant swallowing my pride and adapting just like I'd always done. But sitting in that cafe looking at the screenshots of my sister discussing my small town taste in a group chat, I wasn't allowed to join. I started to wonder if being a good sister was supposed to hurt this much. Lily, what would you do? She was quiet for a long time, stirring her latte that had long since gone cold. I'd probably do exactly what you're doing, Sophie. Because that's who you are. You put the people you love first, even when it costs you everything. She paused, then looked me directly in the eyes. But Sophie, what if this time, just this once, you put yourself first? 3 weeks after that conversation with Lily, I found out about the bridal shower through Instagram. I was scrolling through my feed during my lunch break when I saw it. A post from Nathan's sister Amanda that made my heart stop completely. Such a beautiful day. Celebrating our soon-to-be sister-in-law Emily, you're going to be the most gorgeous bride. The photos showed everything I'd missed. Emily, in a flowing white dress, opening gifts, at an elegant restaurant I recognized from food magazines. Lily was there wearing the coral dress we'd picked out together for what I thought would be my bridal shower planning meetings. Amanda and her friends all perfectly polished and magazine-ready. Margaret Chen beaming as she watched Emily unwrap presents. But no Sophie, not in a single photo. I counted the images, 12 photos total. Emily opening a crystal vase. Emily laughing at something Amanda said. Emily hugging Margaret. A group shot of all the attendees raising champagne glasses in a toast. All the attendees except the sister who was paying for the wedding. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I screenshotted everything before I could lose my nerve, then called Lily immediately. Sophie, I can explain. Can you... Because I'm looking at photos of my sister's bridal shower, and I'm wondering why I'm seeing them on Instagram instead of being there in person. Silence. Then a shaky breath. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Margaret planned it as a small family thing. Emily said she was going to have a separate celebration with you and your family. When was this separate celebration supposed to happen because the wedding is in 6 weeks? I don't know, Sophie, I honestly don't know. Were you ever going to tell me? Or was I supposed to find out through social media, like some random acquaintance? Sophie, I feel like I'm betraying you just by being there. Every single event, every decision, every conversation, I keep thinking about how wrong this all is. But Emily's my friend too, and I don't know how to navigate this without hurting someone. I understood Lily's position. I really did. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. What did they talk about at the shower, Lily? Sophie, I don't think you want to know. Yes, I do. I absolutely do. Another long pause. Margaret gave a speech about how excited she was to welcome Emily into a family that values excellence and sophistication. Amanda talked about how Emily was going to fit in perfectly with their social circle. And Emily thanked everyone for helping her become the woman she was meant to be. The woman she was meant to be. As if the woman she'd been before the woman who'd painted flowers and saved Halloween candy and called me every Wednesday night wasn't good enough. And what about me? Did anyone mention that the bride's sister exists? Margaret referred to Emily's family from home in very general terms, like you were all just part of her past that she was gracefully moving on from. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I went through Emily's social media with the specific intention of looking for lies. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Emily had created a wedding website, one of those elegant pages with their engagement photos and wedding details. I'd seen it before, but I'd only looked at the basic information. This time, I read every word. About the bride, painted a picture of Emily I barely recognized. Emily grew up in a close-knit family that valued education and cultural enrichment. She spent her summers in Europe developing a love for art and architecture that would later influence her career in high-end event planning. A graduate of prestigious Whitmore Academy, Emily went on to study business at Fairfield University, where she discovered her passion for creating unforgettable experiences. Summers in Europe, prestigious Whitmore Academy. None of it was true. Emily had spent her summers working at the local community center's day camp, earning money for college while playing with kids from our neighborhood. She'd gone to Lincoln High School, the same public school I'd attended. She'd never been to Europe in her life, unless you counted the time we drove to Canada when she was 12. But according to her wedding website, she was someone else entirely. Someone whose background would fit seamlessly with Nathan's family's expectations. I called her immediately. Emily, we need to talk about your wedding website. What about it? Did you see the new photos Nathan's cousin took of us? We look amazing. I saw the bio section, the part about Whitmore Academy and summers in Europe. Long silence. Sophie, that's just wedding website language. Everyone embellishes a little. Embellishes, Emily? You completely rewrote your entire childhood. According to this, you never even lived in our neighborhood. It's not about lying, Sophie. It's about presenting the best version of myself. The best version of yourself doesn't include growing up with me. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Then what did you mean? Because I'm looking at a website that erases everything we shared, everything that made you who you are, and I'm trying to understand how that's not about me. Sophie, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. Nathan's family moves in certain circles. They have expectations. And apparently, I don't meet those expectations. It's not personal. Emily, everything about this is personal. I'm your sister. But even as I said it, I was beginning to wonder if that still meant anything to her. The final blow came 2 days later in a conversation with our mother. Mom called me that evening sounding confused and a little hurt. Sophie, honey, Emily called me today about the rehearsal dinner. She asked me and your father to be very careful about how we talk about our family. What do you mean, careful? She said maybe we shouldn't mention that your father worked at the plant for 30 years or that I was a school secretary. She wants us to just say he was in manufacturing and I worked in education. My father had been proud of his job at the automotive plant. He'd worked his way up from the factory floor to shift supervisor, putting in overtime and weekends to make sure Emily and I could both go to college without crushing debt. My mother had been the heart of our elementary school, the person who knew every kid's name and remembered their birthdays and stayed late to help with homework when parents couldn't pick up their children on time. Mom, did she say why? She said Nathan's family might not understand our background and she wanted to avoid any awkwardness. Sophie, I don't understand. What's wrong with how we raised you girls? What's wrong with the work your father and I did? Nothing! There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. But apparently it wasn't good enough for the new Emily, the one who'd spent summers in Europe and attended prestigious academies. Mom, there's nothing wrong with our family. Nothing at all. Then why does Emily want us to pretend to be something we're not? I didn't have a good answer for that question, because the truth was becoming clearer with every conversation, every excluded group chat, every rewritten memory. Emily wasn't just changing the details of her background. She was changing the details of all of us. She was turning our working-class family into something more palatable, more acceptable to Nathan's social circle. And the sister who'd given up her life savings to fund this transformation, apparently, I was the most unacceptable part of all. That night, I sat in my little apartment with all the wedding planning materials spread around me. Vendor contracts with my signature, payment receipts with my bank account information, Pinterest boards full of dreams I'd helped create for a wedding that had no place for me. I looked at the photo on my nightstand, the one from Emily's graduation day. We were both grinning our arms around each other, looking toward a future we thought we'd share. But the Emily in that photo seemed like a stranger now. Someone who'd been replaced by a woman I didn't recognize. Someone who could lie about her past and exclude her family and rewrite their shared history without a second thought. I picked up my phone and started typing a message to Emily, then deleted it. Started again. Deleted again. Because how do you tell someone you've loved your entire life that you don't know who they are anymore? How do you fight for a relationship with someone who's already decided you don't fit into their new life? And how do you save someone who doesn't want to be saved? The email came on a Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m. I was getting ready for work, half listening to the morning news, while I made coffee when my phone chimed with a message that would change everything. The subject line read, "Important wedding update. Please read immediately." Dear Sophie, I hope this message finds you well. After much consideration and discussion with Nathan and both families, we've made some difficult decisions about the wedding ceremony. Due to space constraints at the venue and the intimate nature of the celebration we're planning, we've decided to limit attendance to immediate family and closest friends only. My coffee mug slipped from my hands and shattered on the kitchen floor. However, we know how much this day means to everyone who loves us, so we've arranged for a professional live stream of the ceremony. You'll be able to watch everything in real time and feel like you're right there with us. We're so excited to share this special moment with you, even if it has to be virtually. I read that paragraph 3 times before the words sank in. Emily was uninviting me from her wedding, the wedding I was paying for. But the email wasn't finished. The live streaming setup requires some additional technical equipment and professional operators, which will cost approximately $10,000. Since you've been so generous with supporting our wedding dreams, we were hoping you might be able to help with this final expense. We know it's a lot, but it would mean the world to us to have you be part of our day, even from a distance. $10,000. To watch my sister's wedding on a computer screen. The wedding I'd already paid $40,000 to fund. I sat down on my kitchen floor, surrounded by broken ceramic, and read the email one more time. We love you so much, Sophie, and we know you'll understand. You've always been so good at understanding and supporting what's best for our family. The login details for the stream will be sent closer to the date. With all our love, Emily and Nathan. I called in sick to work. Then I sat at my kitchen table and did something I should have done months earlier. I made a list. Every payment I'd made, every vendor I'd contacted, every contract that had my name and signature on it, the venue deposit, the catering down payment, the photographer's retainer, the florist's advance, the musician's booking fee, line after line of expenses all traced back to my bank account. $43,612. That's what I'd paid so far toward Emily's dream wedding. And for that investment, I'd earned the privilege of watching it happen through a computer screen. I started making phone calls. Hi, this is Sophie Martinez. I'm calling about the Chen Martinez wedding on October 14th. I need to discuss the payment arrangements. The conversation with the venue coordinator was enlightening. Oh yes, Miss Martinez. You're listed as the primary contact and financial guarantor for the event. How can I help you today? I need to know what our cancellation policy looks like. Well, since the event is only 3 weeks away, you'd forfeit the deposits, but any additional payments could be refunded minus a processing fee. And who would need to authorize a cancellation? Since you're the primary signer on the contract, that authorization would come from you. Interesting. Very interesting. I had similar conversations with the caterer, the photographer, the florist. In every case, my name was on the contracts. My credit card was on file. My signature was the one that mattered. Apparently, when you're funding someone's wedding, you have a lot more power than they want you to realize. I wasn't planning to cancel Emily's wedding, but I was planning to have a very different conversation with her about my role in it. That evening, Lily called me. Sophie, I heard about the email. I'm so sorry. Did you know it was coming? I knew they were talking about limiting the guest list, but I didn't know you were being uninvited. I swear I didn't know. Lily, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Do you think I'm overreacting? Am I being selfish or unreasonable? Because I'm starting to feel like I'm going crazy. Sophie, no, you're not overreacting. What's happening to you is horrible, and it's been horrible to watch. Her voice cracked a little. I've been complicit in this, and I hate myself for it. I should have said something stronger. I should have refused to be part of the group chats and planning sessions that excluded you. I should have stood up for you. Lily, you're in an impossible position. No, Sophie, I'm in an uncomfortable position. You're in an impossible position. There's a difference. She was quiet for a moment. Can I come over? I have something for you. An hour later, Lily was sitting on my couch holding a small wrapped package. I made this for you 3 years ago for your birthday, but then I decided it was too sentimental and got you that scarf instead. I've been keeping it in my closet ever since. I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a handmade photo collage, the kind we used to make in high school. Pictures of me and Emily from childhood through college, the treehouse photos, painting sessions in our backyard, Emily's high school graduation, my college graduation, holidays and birthdays, and random Tuesday afternoons when we were just happy to be together. At the center was a photo I'd forgotten about, Emily and me at the hospital when I had pneumonia. She was curled up next to me in the narrow bed, both of us asleep, her little hand holding mine. "This is who you were to each other," Lily said softly. "This is real. What's happening now? All this status chasing and image management that's not real." I traced my finger over that hospital photo. "Emily loved you so much, Sophie. I saw it when I first met you both. The way she talked about you, the way her whole face lit up when she got texts from you. She was so proud to be your sister. What happened to that Emily? I think she got scared. I think Nathan's family made her feel like who she wasn't good enough, and instead of fighting back, she decided to become someone else. And apparently who I am isn't good enough either. Sophie, you are more than good enough. You're extraordinary. You put your sister through college, funded her dream wedding, and never asked for anything in return except to be included in her life. What Emily is doing to you isn't about your worth. It's about her fear." I looked at the collage again, at all those years of love and laughter and connection. "Lily, I want you to keep this." "What? No, Sophie, I made it for you." "I know, but I don't need photos to remember who Emily and I used to be. And maybe someday when she's ready to remember too, you can show her this. Remind her that she had a sister who loved her exactly as she was." Lily started crying then, and so did I. We sat on my couch and cried for the friendship that was ending, for the sister I was losing, for the version of Emily who disappeared somewhere between engagement announcements and country club expectations. The next day, I texted Emily, "We need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Park by the duck pond tomorrow at 2 p.m. She replied almost immediately, "Sophie, if this is about the email, I can explain everything." "Just be there, Emily." Riverside Park was where our parents used to take us when we were kids. Neutral ground full of memories, but not belonging to either of us now. Emily arrived 10 minutes late, looking polished and perfect in a way that made her seem like a stranger. Her hair was professionally styled, her makeup flawless, her outfit something from a magazine spread. She looked like she was heading to a photo shoot, not a conversation with her sister. "Sophie, before you say anything, I want you to know that the live stream idea came from Vivian. She said it would be a beautiful way to include everyone who couldn't be there in person." I let her finish. Let her explain about venue capacity and family dynamics and the importance of keeping things intimate. Let her talk about how much the live stream would mean to extended family and friends who lived far away. When she was done, I spoke quietly. "Emily, I'm not going to watch your wedding on a live stream." "Sophie, please try to understand. I'm not going to send you another $10,000 for technical equipment, but the stream won't work without the professional setup. And I'm not going to pretend that any of this is normal or acceptable." Emily's carefully composed expression started to crack. "Sophie, you're being dramatic. It's just one day. After the wedding, everything will go back to normal." "No, Emily, it won't, because this isn't about one day. This is about who you've become and who you've decided I am in your life." I pulled out my phone and showed her the list I'd made. $43,612. That's what I've paid toward your wedding so far. And in return, you've excluded me from planning decisions, uninvited me from your bridal shower, erased our family history on your wedding website, and now you want me to pay to watch you get married through a computer screen. "Sophie, I never meant for it to be like this." "But it is like this, Emily. And the fact that you never meant for it to happen doesn't change the fact that it did happen." I stood up, looking out at the duck pond where we used to feed stale bread to the mallards. "I love you, Emily. I will always love you. But I can't fund a wedding that has no place for me. I can't support a relationship where I'm treated like an embarrassment to be managed rather than a sister to be celebrated." "What are you saying? I'm saying that I'm withdrawing my financial support for your wedding. You can have the deposits I've already paid, but I won't be covering any additional expenses. Emily's face went white. Sophie, you can't do that. Everything is already booked. The invitations are sent. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Then you and Nathan and his family will need to figure out how to pay for the wedding you planned. But Sophie, I can't afford Eastwood Country Club without your money. We'll have to cancel everything. Or you could have the wedding you can actually afford. Maybe at Willowbrook Lodge like we originally planned. Maybe with the people who love you for who you actually are. Emily started crying then, but they were angry tears, not sad ones. You're ruining my wedding. You're destroying the most important day of my life. No, Emily, I'm choosing not to pay for my own exclusion anymore. There's a difference. I picked up my purse and started walking toward my car. Sophie, wait. We can fix this. I can talk to Nathan, to his parents. We can work something out. I turned back to her one last time. Emily, when you're ready to have a relationship with your actual sister, instead of trying to manage an inconvenient family member, call me. Until then, I hope you have a beautiful wedding. I really do. As I drove away, I saw her in my rearview mirror, standing alone by the duck pond, finally understanding that actions have consequences, and that love without respect is just manipulation with a prettier name. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The wedding happened without me. I know because my parents went. They came back with careful smiles and diplomatic answers that told me everything I needed to know without saying it directly. It was lovely, honey, my mother said when I asked. Small, very elegant. How small? Maybe 40 people, 50 at most, much smaller than what was originally planned. My father was less diplomatic. Felt like a business dinner more than a wedding. A lot of stiff conversation and people who seemed more interested in being seen than celebrating. They didn't say Emily looked unhappy, but they didn't say she looked radiant either. They mentioned that Nathan seemed stressed, that Margaret Chen spent most of the reception making phone calls, and that the photographer left early because of some dispute about payment. Did Emily ask about me? My parents looked at each other in that way couples do when they're deciding how much truth to share. She asked if we'd spoken to you, my mother said carefully. We told her you were doing well. I was doing well. Better than I'd expected, actually. The first few weeks after our conversation at the park had been hard. I won't lie about that. I'd wake up some mornings feeling like I'd lost a limb reaching for my phone to send Emily a good morning text before remembering that we weren't doing that anymore. But then something interesting happened. Without the constant stress of wedding planning and family drama, I started sleeping better. My appetite came back. I stopped getting tension headaches every weekend. I started going to therapy. Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to Nathan's family, helped me understand that setting boundaries isn't the same as giving up on people. She helped me see that I'd been so focused on being the good sister that I'd forgotten to be good to myself. Sophie, what do you think would have happened if you'd continued funding that wedding? She asked during one of our sessions. Emily would have gotten married. And then, what? Do you think that would have been the end of it? Do you think you would have been welcomed back into her life after the wedding? I thought about it for a long time. No, I think there would have been other events, other expectations. Maybe a baby shower someday, or a housewarming party, or anniversary celebrations. And each time I would have been expected to contribute financially while being excluded socially. And how would that have made you feel like I was being used? Because you were being used, Sophie. Loving someone doesn't mean accepting mistreatment from them. I used some of the refunded wedding money to put a down payment on a small house in a neighborhood I'd always dreamed of living in. It had a garden where I could grow tomatoes and a front porch perfect for morning coffee. For the first time in my adult life, I was living somewhere that felt completely mine. I started taking yoga classes at a studio down the street. I joined a book club. I signed up for a pottery class where I learned to make bowls that were wonky but functional and entirely my own. 6 months after the wedding, Lily called me. Sophie, I need to tell you something about Emily. Is she okay? Physically, yes, but Sophie, the marriage is struggling. Nathan's family never really accepted her, even after everything she did to try to fit in. Margaret still makes comments about Emily's background about how Nathan could have done better. Amanda barely speaks to her at family events. I felt a familiar ache in my chest, but not the overwhelming pain I'd expected. And Emily's realizing that all the changes she made, all the history she rewrote, it didn't actually get her what she thought it would. She traded her real family for people who still don't want her. How do you know all this? She's been calling me crying. She started therapy too, Sophie. She's trying to figure out how she lost herself so completely. Did she ask you to call me? No. She's too ashamed. But Sophie, I think she's starting to understand what she did to you, to your whole family. I appreciated Lily telling me, but I wasn't ready to reach out to Emily. I'd spent too many years being the one who always reached out first, who always forgave, who always tried to fix things first. If Emily wanted a relationship with me, she was going to have to be the one to take that first step. 8 months after the wedding, that step finally came. I was at my parents' house for a 4th of July barbecue when Emily's car pulled into the driveway. My first instinct was to leave through the back door, but I forced myself to stay. I wasn't going to run from family gatherings because of Emily's choices. She looked different. Older, maybe, or just tired. Her hair was back to its natural brown color, and she was wearing a simple sundress that looked like something the old Emily might have chosen. "Hi, Sophie." "Hi, Emily." We stood there for a moment, not hugging, not moving closer, just acknowledging each other's presence. "I didn't know you'd be here," she said. "It's my family, too." "I know, I just meant I would have called first to see if that was okay." That was new. The Emily from before the wedding never would have asked if her presence was okay with me. We spent most of the afternoon in the same space, but not really talking. She helped my mother in the kitchen while I played cornhole with my father and uncle. We were polite when we had to interact, but there was a careful distance between us. As I was getting ready to leave, Emily approached me. "Sophie, could we talk? Just for a few minutes?" We walked to the backyard, away from the rest of the family. "I owe you an apology," she said. "A real one." I waited. I lost myself completely. I was so desperate to be accepted by Nathan's family that I convinced myself that everything about my real life, including you, was something to be ashamed of. I hurt you in ways that I'm still discovering, and I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. I know sorry isn't enough. I know I can't undo what I did or take back the things I said. But I want you to know that I'm in therapy, and I'm trying to understand how I became someone who could treat you that way. How are you, Emily? Really?" She smiled sadly. "I'm divorced." I wasn't surprised, but it still hit me like a punch to the chest. Nathan and I lasted about 4 months after the wedding. Turns out that when you build a relationship on pretending to be someone you're not, it doesn't work very well long term. "I'm sorry. I'm not anymore. Sophie, I spent 2 years trying to become someone else, and I was miserable every single day. I forgot what it felt like to laugh at my own jokes or wear clothes I actually liked or just be comfortable in my own skin." She looked at me with eyes that seemed clearer than they had in years. "I miss you, Sophie. I miss us. I don't know if you can ever forgive me, and I understand if you can't, but I want you to know that I'm trying to become someone worthy of your forgiveness. Emily, I never stopped loving you, but I can't go back to the way things were before. I know. I wouldn't want to. The way things were before allowed me to hurt you without consequences. If we're going to have a relationship, it needs to be different. What does different look like? I don't know yet, but maybe we could figure it out together. Slowly." I thought about the photo collage Lily had made about that little girl in the hospital bed who'd saved her Halloween candy for me. I thought about the treehouse secrets and the finger-painted flowers and the Wednesday night memory chats, But I also thought about the boundaries I'd learned to set, the self-respect I'd fought to regain the peace I'd found in my little house, with its wonky pottery and thriving garden. "We can try," I said. "But Emily, I'm not the same person I was before. I won't sacrifice my own well-being for anyone else's happiness, not even yours." "I wouldn't want you to. Sophie, you were right to walk away from my wedding. You were right to protect yourself. I'm just grateful you're willing to consider letting me back into your life." We didn't hug that day. We didn't promise that everything would be okay. But we exchanged phone numbers again, and Emily asked if she could text me sometimes, just small things, and maybe we could rebuild slowly. That was 18 months ago. Emily and I talk now, but it's different. She doesn't expect me to fix her problems, or fund her dreams, or sacrifice my needs for hers. She asks before she assumes. She listens when I say no. She's learning to take responsibility for her choices instead of expecting me to clean up the consequences. It's not the relationship we had when we were kids, but it's honest in a way that relationship never was. I love my sister, but I love myself too now. And I've learned that those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. Some people think I was too harsh. They think family should forgive everything, accept anything, because blood is thicker than water. But I've learned that blood doesn't give anyone the right to bleed you dry. Setting boundaries isn't about punishment or revenge. It's about respect. It's about teaching people how to treat you by showing them what you will and won't accept. Emily needed to learn that love isn't just about grand gestures and emotional declarations. Real love shows up in how you treat people when it's inconvenient, how you honor them when no one is watching, how you value them when their presence doesn't benefit you. I needed to learn that I deserve the same love I give. That being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. That you can love someone completely and still refuse to let them hurt you. My house has become my sanctuary. My garden blooms every spring with vegetables I've chosen and flowers I've planted. My pottery may still be wonky, but every bowl I make holds exactly what I need it to hold. My life is smaller than I once planned, but it's entirely mine. Emily visits sometimes now. She sits on my front porch and drinks coffee from mugs I made myself, and we talk about books and work and the ways we're both still learning to be whole people. She's never asked me to be anything other than exactly who I am. That little girl who saved Halloween candy for her sick sister, she's still in there somewhere, but she's surrounded by women who's learned that love without boundaries isn't love at all. So, let me ask you something. What boundaries have you had to draw to honor yourself? What relationships in your life need the kind of honest conversation that might save them or might end them, but definitely can't continue the way they are? Because here's what I know now: you can't save people who don't want to be saved. You can't love people into treating you well. And you can't build healthy relationships on the foundation of your own diminished self-worth. But you can choose yourself. You can set boundaries. You can walk away from situations that require you to be smaller, quieter, less than who you are. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the people who truly love you will do the work to earn their way back into your life as the person you've become, not the person you used to be. That's not the fairy tale ending I dreamed of when I was sitting in that treehouse, making promises to keep my sister's secrets. But it's something better. It's real. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon for more real-life drama stories. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect? I read every single comment. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.